Let's take a look at this explain why question and consider the best approach towards answering it and securing all marks. So, explain using examples of transported substances why multicellular plants need transport systems. In explain why questions, you need to give the reason or the causal mechanism of why a particular phenomena is occurring. In this case, why multicellular plants need transport systems. The question has also prompted us to use examples of transported substances within that transport system. The question context also includes the idea of oak trees and dandelions to help frame our thinking. Whilst it's normal and a model answer would typically lead with the explanation because that's the primary focus of the question, I would actually advise providing examples of transported substances first. This is to ensure that you don't miss out on them as you get towards the end of your answer or fail to tie them in appropriately. So let's talk through those first. The first point that we can consider is the transport of water or mineral ions from the roots to the cells throughout the rest of the plant body or to the leaves, which you could argue are for photosynthesis. However, we don't need to explain what these substances are for because we've not been prompted for it. We could then talk about the transport of sucrose from photosynthesis to sinks such as the fruit or to root storage tissues or any tissue which is going to be taking it up. A third and final example of a substance transported around plants is hormones, which would be going from synthesizing tissues to target tissues. I've given 3 here, as we would find in the mark scheme, because potentially it might be 3 marks if we give 3 examples, although in this question that's not the case. This is just a good form of practice when approaching the question to ensure you will hit all marks. So now we've taken a look at some examples, let's review the explanatory mechanisms for why multicellular plants need transport systems. So first off, we'd want to consider that multicellular organisms have a small surface area to volume ratio. That is a stock phrase that you should be very familiar with and is always worth writing out when they are asking about why organisms need transport systems, whether or not it's animals or plants. Secondly, diffusion alone is too slow, so metabolic demands cannot be met. We cannot supply the substances we need at a great enough rate in order to meet the plant's metabolic requirements. Indeed, in animals, if this was a question about animals. So again, this point here is worth writing out in a similar question. The third and final point is that large organisms must transport these substances over long distances, and for the reasons outlined previously, diffusion is not sufficient to overcome those long distances and therefore supply metabolic demands at a sufficient rate. And again, this point is always worth writing down for any question which is asking about why organisms need transport systems. So there we have 3 explanations to ensure that we're going to hit those 3 marks. In this case, for this particular question, in its actual mark scheme, you could have 2 marks from the examples and 2 marks from the explanation. You can't have more than 2 from each though, so you'll need at least 1 example and at least 1 explanation along with 2 of the others in order to ensure you get 3 marks.